Hello and thank you for joining me. I'm Paul Beattie. I've written two murder mysteries set in Victorian England in the 1840s. The first was called Children of Fire and the second Circles of Deceit. Soon after their publication, particularly of Circles of Deceit, the books went out on what is called a blog tour, where copies were sent to a series of well-established blogs over a couple of weeks. The results from that tour for Circles of Deceit were very flattering and raised some issues that seem to be worth considering in more detail. In this videocast, I'm considering the issues of research that went into the book and how that affected the appreciation of the book by the bloggers. There are a minority of readers who delight in pointing out inaccuracies in what authors write. It's even better if they can point out that the murder you have so carefully crafted in your book could not have been committed in that way, nor at that time. Such views may not necessarily be taken seriously, except that they should give the author pause for thought about the accuracy of their writing. Now, it's not possible to be completely accurate even if a book is set in a given geographical area or historical time period. So the question is not so much whether you can be accurate, but whether the accuracy that can be achieved is accurate enough to convince a reader. A further complication with my background in science and engineering is that I'm attracted to the possibility of using techniques that might have been around in the period. But at least in the Victorian period there are lots of sources for research available to us. The types of source divide up into two sorts. There are printed sources and archives of different sorts in museums and universities. Local newspapers of the time give an incredibly detailed picture of what the period was like on a week-by-week basis. Some syndicated column inches using the reports from other papers in different parts of the country to give their papers a more rounded feel. But it was not, as many people think, a polite and decorous time. At least before 1850 or so, and I suspect not even then. And that applied in particular to politics. People lambasted each other in no uncertain terms. If the sort of attacks common then were applied now, then there would be far more libel cases in our courts. politics of the period was no holds barred. But local newspapers can bring gems of information not mentioned elsewhere. I came across a reference in a Stockport paper that there was a Committee of Public Safety supervising strikes in the mills in the Marple Bridge area. Committees of Public Safety were one of the main weapons of the terror in the revolutionary France. I never could cross-reference the report, but nonetheless I had good fun in using it in the book. Then there are what we would think of as national newspapers. The first paper we would recognise in this way in the northwest of England was Manchester Observer, then also a weekly. It was, as it has remained, a radical independent newspaper. In relation to circles of deceit, the most important of the newspapers was the Northern Star, the Chartist paper, edited by Fergus O'Connor. It was in the Northern Star that the details of the Lancaster Chartist trial were published, which I used in the latter chapters of the book. There are also the more measured insights of novelists, Elizabeth Gaskell especially in Mary Barton and North and South. She shows the details of the lives of the working classes in Manchester better than, say, Charles Dickens in Hard Times. At even more distance are the measured considerations of historians. In the case of Circles Deceit, it was Professor Mick Jenkins, the general strike of 1842, that gave me the best feel for the events of the strike. There are other sources of information to inform one's narrative. Even what we might call experimental archaeology lent a hand as a source of inspiration for Circles of Deceit. There was a need for a mechanical encoding machine. There had been examples of such machines in the period, and they went on being manufactured into the American Civil War. Ideas about making such machines were exclusively mechanical. Some mechanical encoder preceded 1842, and the similar ideas and solutions to the problem appeared and reappeared in the period I was writing about. Though what was a plausible encoding machine for 1842 to 43? The historical coding machine I chose to use as a model for my encoder was the Wheatstone cryptograph, the first version of which was made in 1843, with the final commercial version completed by 1875. but there were devices in use in the mid-1830s using much the same principles. There'll be a short video which goes along with this videocast about how the Wheatstone coding machine worked, and uses a working model which I had constructed as part of the research for Circles of Deceit. Local libraries such as Manchester's Reference Library have responded to the current public interest in genealogy by making census information available to the public. Manchester's library also has a map collection as well as a video film library, which unfortunately is of no help in 1842. But national collections in other parts of the country can be more useful. The British National Library in Euston, it has one of the best English map collections I've found. Even allowing for train fare, since it's only a few hundred yards from Euston Station, it represents better value for money because of that superior collection. But not all national archives are in London. I needed to know something of the performance of guns of my period, facts like range and accuracy. The National Armouries Museum in Leeds was the place to go. Not only are there demonstrations of the history of warfare and jousting with proper horses, but you can take the family and talk to the appropriate archivist while the rest of the family is entertained. In Manchester there is the People's History Museum. This concerns itself with events which resonate in my period, such as Peterloo, as well as Chartism, and how, in fact, working practices changed in the period, particularly going on to 1851. And it was in this library where I found Mick Jenkins' book I mentioned earlier. That brings me to the end of this video. In the credits there will be a URL of my website. Send me written questions and I'll reply if I can. Children of Fire and Circles of Deceit are available from most good bookshops and Amazon. They also are available as ebooks for use on Kindle or similar ebook players. Hope we meet again soon. Bye.